Hi there, we are reading from Mark chapter 14, verse 43 to 65. Just as he was speaking, Judas, one of the 12, appeared. With him was a crowd armed with swords and clubs, sent from the chief priests, the teachers of the law, and the elders. Now the betrayer had arranged a signal with them. "The one I kiss is the man. Arrest him and lead him away under guard." Going at once to Jesus, Judas said, "Rabbi," and kissed him. The men seized Jesus and arrested him. Then one of those standing near drew his sword and struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his ear. "Am I leading a rebellion," said Jesus, "that you have come out with swords and clubs to capture me? Every day I was with you, teaching in the temple courts, and you did not arrest me. But the scriptures must be fulfilled." Then everyone deserted him and fled. A young man wearing nothing but a linen garment was following Jesus. When they seized him, he fled naked, leaving his garment behind. They took Jesus to the high priest, and all the chief priests, elders, and teachers of the law came together. Peter followed him at a distance, right into the courtyard of the high priest. There he sat with his guards and warmed himself at the fire. Sat with the guards and warmed himself at the fire. The chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for evidence against Jesus so they could put him to death, but they did not find any. Many testified falsely against him, but their statements did not agree. Then some stood up and gave this false testimony against him. "We heard him say, 'I will destroy this man-made temple, and in 3 days will build another not made by man.'" Yet even then their testimony did not agree. Then the high priest stood up before them and asked Jesus, "Are you not going to answer? What is this testimony that these men are bringing against you?" But Jesus remained silent and gave no answer. Again the high priest asked him, "Are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed One?" "I am," said Jesus, "and you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One, and coming on the clouds of heaven." The high priest tore his clothes. "Why do we need any more witnesses?" he asked. "You have heard the blasphemy. What do you think?" They all condemned him as worthy of death. Then some began to spit at him. They blindfolded him, struck him with their fists, and said, "Prophesy." And the guards took him and beat him. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff there, and I'm clearly not going to deal with all of it. Maybe just look at one or two things. The first one is just, as he's speaking, Judas, one of the 12, appears. And I think part of that is trying to get into the mind of Jesus. And I know we can't do that, but just the idea that you've just had this intimate dinner with somebody that you've spent 3 years with, and you prophesied that they were going to betray you. And so Jesus knows, and now here's this moment where he sees him coming. And just that idea of, yeah, I know it's going to happen, but maybe there's always that thought of maybe it won't happen. But it's like, no, this is definitely happening. This is definitely going down. One of my 12 is coming to betray me. And just how calm and mellow Jesus is in the face of danger, in the face of abuse and attack. And even as we go into the scene where they're throwing all sorts of insults, and Jesus says nothing until right at the end. Just the idea of how quick we are to respond when people throw insults at us, how quick we are to jump into Facebook arguments, how quick we are to defend our case. I find that, I don't know, maybe it's more so than other people, but Christians tend to be quite defensive. We often hear that we have not created the best environment for people to ask questions, for people to have doubts with their faith. We read the Bible says so. We're quick to give answers which are often really not thought out and often really dissatisfying to those who have genuine concerns, or maybe those on the outside genuinely interested in our faith. And because sometimes we rush to quick answers, they aren't necessarily thought out and real and helpful. It's in the Bible, as if the Bible is only truth, which a lot of people believe it is, but at the same time, we interpret the Bible. And for some people, many people can take the same passage and come out with two completely different answers, and then the fact that the Bible speaks truth doesn't help as much. It has to be bigger than that. It has to be deeper than that. And so just giving better answers, just taking time to listen, just waiting for the moment when we should respond. And that's what Jesus did. And maybe there's a whole period where he just doesn't respond at all, and then there's a moment where it's like, now this is the moment. Yes, I am here. And that moment that he responds is the moment that allows them to kill him, in a sense. It's the moment that they can call it blasphemy. It's the moment where Jesus has announced that he's God's son. And so I don't know that's necessarily the lesson from this passage, but I know that it's definitely something we as Christians can learn. Just when to answer, how to answer, what kind of tone to have when answering. To treat people with respect instead of just calling them morons because they don't agree with what we say, and to really maybe take time to listen to what's being said, and to not be so defensive. God is not going to fall off his throne anytime soon. We certainly don't have to defend him in a way like if we get this wrong, the whole kingdom is going to fall down. God is secure. So we can learn from that, I think. And just in the midst of people are running away, people are chopping off ears, like Jesus is calm. What needs to happen, and it's going to happen, and he just allows it to do that. So I think that's quite interesting. The fact that he doesn't retaliate against Judas, the fact that he doesn't have a one-liner, that he doesn't throw a punch or anything like that. It's just probably being able to understand the brokenness, and we see it fully when Jesus is on the cross, but just realizing that God gets it. This is when God starts getting what it means to be betrayed by someone else, by being hurt by a close friend, by having someone turn their back on you, by having someone not believe in you. And so we start to see God coming close, really starting to experience how we experience life, and hopefully just being able to understand it a bit more, or showing us that he's able to understand it a bit more because he's gone through it. And then at the same time, you've got Peter. He made this big declaration. He really wanted to honor it. He's there. He's close. And we're going to see in the next passage how he gets it totally wrong again. But we can be quick to diss Peter, but he was there. Many of the others ran away. One of them is running away naked because his garment's been seized. But Peter stuck around, like he really had good intentions. He kept coming back. Even after he messes up, he comes back again. And that's something that we can learn, that it's not so much a matter of if we mess up, but firstly, are we there? Are we physically present in the first place? And secondly, once we messed up, do we return? Do we stick it out? Do we say sorry when we need to say sorry? Do we repent when that needs to happen? Those are just two things, and again, not directly necessarily from the passage. It's a tricky passage, but two things that we can really learn a lot from. So hopefully that was helpful.